Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans from a warmish Brisbane. Now, the video that I've attached here is very interesting, and I'll explain to you why. Okay, it's SANEF, which is the organization that represents editors in South Africa. That's in the media. Taking on the EFF because of their treatment of the reporters in South Africa. And of course they're now jumping up and down and saying that the EFF are really just giving them a hard time. Now, that's making major news in South Africa today. And what I find very interesting is the same mob of reporters hardly touch on the genocide that's going on in South Africa. When they suddenly get targeted by a radical group like the EFF, they jump up and down and make a hell of a noise about it. But when other people get targeted by thugs on farms and things like that, they tend to kind of lose the narrative, don't they? You let me know what you think about the double standards. I'll play the video now. Please remember to subscribe to be kept informed, and have a great evening. Take care, guys, and it's a few days before Christmas. And before I go, this Sunday night I'm hoping to have a lady on, but we're still kind of talking about availability, who you'll find very, very interesting. So just put that in your calendar as well. Catch you soon. Bye for now.
SANEF has now lodged a complaint in the Equality Court against the economic freedom fighters and its leader, Julius Malema. This in an attempt to stop the party from harassing and threatening journalists. Let's get you straight to the source of the story. I'm joined on the show by SANEF chairperson Mhlathi, who joins us. Mhlathi, hello to you. So why now go as far as the court? Why as far as the Equality Court?
It was quite a difficult decision for us as SANEF to decide on taking the EFF to court, simply because we had actually believed that we would be able to sit down with the EFF and discuss this matter. As you know, we had a council meeting in November, and since November what we have done is asked all of our journalists to actually collect some of the tweets, some of the messages on social media, because we wanted to present to the EFF what has been the effect and the impact since Julius Malema made those comments outside of the Zondo Commission, and when he named specific journalists, calling them a cabal and saying that they should be acted on decisively. And this has been quite a chilling effect, but unfortunately the EFF has refused to meet with us. We have written to them twice. We have tried informal reaching out to them to say...
Have you tried tweeting them?
We have tried tweeting them as well. We actually have tried tweeting them as well, but you know the response has been that they are quite busy until after the elections. And we know that in the meantime they have since gone on to meet with many other private companies, and we cannot wait until the elections. We need to actually make sure that the rules of the game are actually addressed and all of us understand them, especially heading towards an election.
I was about to say, ahead of the elections, you want to make sure that any kind of rules of engagement, no matter how robust they might be, are very well in place. But when you talk about the kind of damage that has been caused by tweets and calling out certain journalists and naming them, how are you quantifying that? How are you able to go to a court and say this amount of damage has been done to this person because of this comment?
You know, I would actually just like to invite the viewers of the ENCA to go to our website, because there we've posted affidavits. So we've had examples of especially the women journalists called the B word, the C word. They've been called witches. They've been called whores. We've had instances where they've been threatened with rape, or some people saying that they're demanding their home addresses so that they can actually go to their homes. Not only the female journalists, but some of the journalists that we've included as part of this legal suit in the Equality Court. And we can quantify the effects of it from sitting in a newsroom where younger journalists are refusing to actually do stories that could be seen as critical of the EFF, because they've seen this barrage of harassment, abuse, insults, racial attacks by people purporting to be EFF supporters and EFF members, and this tacit endorsement by some of the EFF leadership.
So you could almost say it could be scaring away future journalists.
It has actually scared them off, because a lot of them are not willing to do those reports. I mean, in an unprecedented unfiltered way. When they first refused to meet with us, we gave the journalists the option. If they do not feel safe, they must be free to walk out. If they feel that their colleagues are actually being insulted unfairly and all of that, they should have the right to actually walk out in solidarity with them. Because many of them were saying to us as editors that they don't feel safe. If this is happening to more senior journalists, to editors, what about them, the younger journalists? And that is why the public and the South African public must understand why we are doing this. Because when we are not able to report without fear or favor, it means that they are actually being denied the right to know.
Let's talk about the membership then of SANEF and those who are actually involved in this. Would it be a fair comment to say that SANEF at this point, to my understanding, is not representing all journalists in the country? It's a voluntary it's voluntary to be part of SANEF. Is that correct?
Yes, it is a professional body. It is voluntary for senior journalists and also editors from any media house. We have expanded over the years. We are actually very representative. We have community media that now falls part of SANEF. We can proudly say that we are a representative body. But for us, it's not just about the people that are members of SANEF. Our sole mandate is actually to defend and protect media freedom in this country. Somebody once said that even after you've attained democracy, freedom actually needs defenders. And we see that as our role as South African National Editors Forum. So whether you are a member or not, we will defend your right as a journalist to do your work freely, because the Constitution guarantees us that. But also, just to add, Gareth, we are not saying that the media should not be criticized. It should be criticized, especially when it gets things wrong, and we should be held accountable. And that is why we have the press ombuds. That is why we have the Broadcasting Complaints Association for broadcasters. And we have seen in the past few years how they've come down on journalists who actually do get things wrong. But we cannot allow a situation where journalists are actually threatened and harassed into silence. That is not a democracy that we want as South Africans.
What recourse are you seeking from the court? What are you hoping will happen either at the end of the court process, or if the EFF were to come forward, what action would you want them to take to avoid any court action? How does this play out?
We welcome any engagement with the EFF. That was actually always our first prize. As I've already explained, it was a difficult decision to decide to take them to the Equality Court. But what we have said to the court is that we want them to stop the intimidation, harassment of journalists, either by the leadership of the EFF or by people purporting to be members of the EFF, and also on social media. But also what we are saying is that we want we've asked the court to direct Mr. Malema, the leader of the EFF, to apologize to the journalists that have been named, but more importantly, to affirm the Constitution. He is a member of Parliament. He's taken an oath to defend and protect the Constitution, and the Constitution says that journalists must be able to do their work freely, and we believe that this is important for him and many other leaders of the EFF to come out and defend the Constitution, because essentially this is what it's all about.
What happens if he doesn't? And you're now going to court for this. What if the court rules against you? How do you think this places journalists as far as the elections next year are concerned? Because that seems to be the ultimate concern as ahead of 2019.
Our ultimate concern is ahead of 2019. I mean, and it's not a fear without anything. We've seen the escalation in terms of attacks on journalists towards elections. We saw that spike in the 2016 municipal election. We know that there are a lot of responsibilities on political parties. Part of it is that the IEC makes them sign and commit to a peaceful election, and that allows the media to do its work. So there's still a lot of options. But ultimately what we are saying is that let's all stand for the Constitution. The first sign of a democracy that is about to fail is when journalists are not able to do their work. And we should never, wait and say, this one, let's let it pass. We must act when the threats to our Constitution and our democracy arise, and actually hold everybody accountable.
All right, thank you very much indeed for coming in to speak to us. I know that you haven't heard from the EFF, and I'm sure we're going to try and get comment from them as well. And once we do, or you do, and either it goes to court or there's some kind of resolution to this, I'm sure we'll get you.
I'm sure you can persuade them to meet with us.
We can try. We'll definitely even try Twitter. It seems to be the best way to sometimes get hold of people. My thanks to the editor, or the chairperson of SANEF, joining me this afternoon, Mhlati Mhlashi, joining us here on ENCA. Now, more on that story, breaking news, you can see on your screen a little bit later.